I refused to be the family's bank and was shamed for it, but my will left me smiling on the hospital bed. They had no idea what was coming next. The text message from Christine lit up my phone screen. Emergency family meeting. Tonight, 7 p.m. Don't you dare say no. I stared at those words, my stomach already nodding. Being the successful one in the family meant every emergency meeting inevitably led to the same thing. Someone needed money again. My name is Zara, and I've spent the last decade being my family's personal ATM. While they see a thriving businesswoman who has it easy, they don't see the 80-hour weeks or the sacrifices I've made to build my consulting firm from scratch. You're not seriously going, are you? Sierra asked, watching me gather my things from across our shared office space. That's the third emergency this month. What choice do I have? I sighed, slipping on my blazer. Last time I missed one, Dad didn't speak to me for 2 weeks. Maybe that wasn't such a bad thing, she muttered, but I pretended not to hear. I arrived at Christine's house at 7:05 p.m. Everyone was already there, scattered around her living room like vultures waiting to feast. Theo sprawled on the couch, probably hiding another betting slip in his pocket. Adeline sat cross-legged on the floor, perfectly manicured nails tapping away at her phone. Dad occupied his usual armchair, looking stern as ever. Finally, Christine exclaimed, "We've been waiting." "Some of us have to work," I replied, choosing to stand rather than sit. "What's the emergency?" "We're planning a family reunion," Adeline piped up, finally looking up from her phone. "Everyone's coming. Aunts, uncles, cousins, even Great-Aunt Martha." I waited for the other shoe to drop. "We need you to fund it," Christine said as if announcing the weather. "The venue alone is $5,000, and then there's catering, decorations." "No." The word left my mouth before I could stop it. The room fell silent. 5 pairs of eyes stared at me in disbelief. "What do you mean no?" Theo sat up straight. "It's for family." "I mean no," I repeated stronger this time. "I'm done being the family bank." Christine's face reddened. "After everything we've done for you, everything you've done for me?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Like what, Christine? Like borrowing $10 for your business venture that never happened? Or you, Theo, the gambling debt I covered last Christmas?" "That's different," Theo protested. "I was in trouble." "You're always in trouble." My voice rose. "All of you. Always needing something, always taking, never giving back. I'm tired of it, Zara." Dad's voice carried that familiar note of disapproval. "This is about family unity. Your mother would have wanted don't." I held up my hand. "Don't you dare use Mom to manipulate me. She would have wanted you all to stand on your own 2 feet. You've changed," Adeline said quietly. "Success has made you selfish." That word, selfish, hit me like a slap. I'd heard it so many times over the years whenever I dared to say no, whenever I tried to set boundaries. "You want to talk about selfish?" I grabbed my purse. "Look in the mirror, all of you. I'm done. If you walk out that door," Christine called after me, "don't expect us to be there when you need us." I paused at the doorway, turning back one last time. "When have you ever been there when I needed you?" The door slammed behind me with a satisfying bang. In my car, hands shaking on the steering wheel, I felt something shift inside me. Years of resentment crystallized into determination. My phone buzzed continuously, messages from all of them, ranging from guilt trips to outright threats. I switched it off. At home, I poured myself a glass of wine and called Sierra. "How bad was it?" she asked. "I finally did it," I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice was. I said no. "About damn time." She paused. "Are you okay?" "No," I admitted, "but I will be. They need to learn they can't keep using me like this. They need to learn about consequences." "What are you going to do?" I took a long sip of wine, an idea forming in my mind. "I'm going to teach them a lesson they'll never forget, something that will either make them or break them." "Zara." Sierra's voice held a note of warning. "Don't worry," I said, already opening my laptop. "This isn't about revenge. It's about growth. They just don't know it yet." As I began typing, I felt lighter than I had in years. Sometimes, the kindest thing you can do for someone is to stop enabling them. And if my plan worked, my family would thank me for it someday or hate me forever. Either way, I was done being their safety net. The fluorescent lights of the emergency room buzzed overhead as I tried to make sense of what had happened. 1 minute, I was presenting to clients. The next, I was doubled over, unable to breathe. Now here I was hooked up to monitors, watching my blood pressure numbers dance across the screen. "Miss Whitney?" A doctor in blue scrubs approached my bed. "I'm Dr. Reynolds. Your test results show you've experienced a severe panic attack, complicated by exhaustion and dangerously high stress levels." I almost laughed. "Stress? I can't be here for stress. I have meetings tomorrow. Deadlines." "You're not going anywhere," he interrupted firmly. Your body is sending you a clear message. Ignore it, and next time could be much worse. A nurse appeared with admission papers. We're keeping you for observation at least 48 hours. My phone lit up again. Another message from Christine. I'd been ignoring them all week, but curiosity got the better of me. Hope you're proud of yourself. Dad's devastated. The reunion's canceled. Thanks to you. The monitor beeped as my heart rate spiked. I'll take that, the nurse said, plucking the phone from my hands. Doctor's orders, no stress triggers. Later that evening, Sierra arrived with an overnight bag and my laptop. Don't even think about working, she warned, seeing my eyes light up at the sight of my computer. But I thought you might want to handle some personal matters. Like what? She sat on the edge of my bed, her expression serious. Like your will, Zara. This is a wake-up call. What if it had been something worse? I started to protest, but the words died in my throat. She was right. If something happened to me, my family would tear each other apart over my assets. I need a lawyer, I said finally. Already called Barrett, Sierra replied. He's on his way. Barrett arrived an hour later, leather briefcase in hand. As Emery's brother and a family friend, he knew exactly what I was dealing with. Interesting timing, he said, pulling up a chair. Emery told me about the reunion drama. Then you understand why this needs to be done carefully, I replied. I want to help them, Barrett, but not in the way they expect. He opened his briefcase. I'm listening. For the next 2 hours, we crafted something that was part will, part intervention. Each family member would receive a letter leading them to a specific charity or organization that mirrored their personal struggles. Christine needs to understand what real need looks like, I explained, watching Barrett take notes. Send her to the women's shelter downtown. Theo should work with gambling addiction support groups. Adeline. I paused. Youth self-esteem programs. She needs to see beyond appearances. And the inheritance? Barrett asked. They'll get it, but only after 6 months of documented volunteer work with their assigned organizations. No shortcuts. No buying their way out. Barrett whistled low. They're going to be furious. Good, I said, feeling a strange calm settle over me. Maybe fury will motivate them to change. What about your father? I closed my eyes briefly. The Veterans Center. He needs to remember what real sacrifice looks like. As Barrett drafted the documents, Sierra squeezed my hand. Are you sure about this? For the first time in years, yes? I opened my eyes looking at the hospital ceiling. They need this. I need this. There's one more thing, Barrett said, looking up from his paperwork. To make this legally binding, we need to inform them while you're still in the hospital. It adds weight to the situation. You want me to tell them now? He nodded. I'll call them in tomorrow. Let them think it's worse than it is. Sometimes people need a shock to wake them up. The thought of facing them made my chest tight, but the monitor's steady beeping reminded me why I was here in the first place. Do it, I said. Call them all in. It's time they understood what they've done to me. After they left, I lay in the darkness listening to the quiet of hospital machinery. My phone sat silent in the drawer, but I could imagine the messages piling up, the missed calls, the family group chat exploding with drama. For the first time since Mom died, I felt like I was taking control back. Maybe it was the medication. Maybe it was the exhaustion. But I smiled as I drifted off to sleep. Tomorrow, everything would change. They'd either hate me for it or thank me later, but either way, I was done being their crutch. Sometimes the biggest act of love is forcing people to stand on their own. The thought followed me into my dreams, where for once, I wasn't running to anyone's rescue. I was simply standing still, watching them learn to save themselves. They filed into my hospital room like mourners at a funeral, faces drawn with worry and barely concealed expectation. Christine clutched her designer handbag like a shield. Theo couldn't stop fidgeting. Adeline kept glancing at her reflection in the window. Dad took the chair closest to my bed, trying to look concerned rather than calculating. Barrett stood by the window, briefcase ready. Sierra positioned herself near the door, arms crossed, watching. Oh, sweetie, Christine started, her voice dripping with manufactured sympathy. Why didn't you tell us you were so ill? Because I'm not, I replied flatly. I'm here because of stress, because of you. All of you. The room fell silent. What's he doing here? Theo asked, jerking his chin toward Barrett. I've asked Barrett to help me revise my will, I said, watching their expressions shift. Recent events have made me realize some changes are necessary. Christine straightened up immediately. Of course, you need to protect your assets. I completely understand. Let me finish. I cut her off. Barrett, the letters, please. He opened his briefcase and distributed 4 sealed envelopes. My family stared at them like they might explode. Open them, I instructed. The sound of tearing paper filled the room. I watched their faces transform as they read. Confusion, shock, anger, disbelief. This is a joke. Right? Adeline was the first to speak. You want me to work at some youth center for 6 months? A gambling addiction center? Theo crumpled his letter. Have you lost your mind? Christine's face had gone pale. A women's shelter? I can't, I don't, you can and you will, I said firmly. If you want any part of my estate, these are my terms. 6 months of documented volunteer work at your assigned organizations. No exceptions. No buying your way out. This is ridiculous, Dad exploded, waving his letter. The Veterans Center? I served my country. Exactly, I interrupted. So you should have no problem serving again, this time by helping others who've sacrificed everything. And if we refuse, Christine demanded, then you get nothing. I kept my voice steady. My entire estate will go to these organizations instead. You can't do this. Theo stood up, pacing. It's not legal. Actually, Barrett stepped forward. It's completely legal. I've drawn up all the necessary documentation. Zara's conditions are clear and binding. This is revenge, Adeline accused, tears smearing her perfect makeup. For the reunion thing? No, I said softly. This is an intervention. Look at yourselves. Really look. Christine, when's the last time you earned your own money? Theo, how many times have I bailed you out? Adeline, do you even know who you are beneath all that superficial perfection? And me? Dad's voice was dangerous and low. What's my great sin? Enabling them, I replied. Teaching them that taking from others is easier than standing on their own feet. You're our sister, Christine pleaded. Our daughter. Family helps family. I'm not helping by being your human ATM. I gestured at the hospital room. Look where it's gotten me. This stops now. Sierra stepped forward. I think Zara needs to rest. You all have your letters. The choice is yours. Choice? Theo laughed bitterly. This is blackmail. No. I corrected him. This is tough love. Something I should have done years ago. They left one by one, Dad. Last of all. He paused at the door looking back at me with an expression I couldn't read. Your mother would be ashamed, he said quietly. No, Dad, I replied, feeling tears prick my eyes. Mom would have done this years ago. She was stronger than any of us. After they left, Sierra sat on the edge of my bed. Well, that went about as well as expected. Barrett gathered his papers. They'll come around, or they won't. Either way, you've done the right thing. Have I? I whispered, suddenly uncertain. You should have seen their faces. I did. Sierra squeezed my hand. And beneath all that anger, I saw something else. Fear. Because for the first time, they're facing consequences. My phone buzzed. A message from Emery. Barrett told me what you did. About time someone shook them up. I'm here if you need me. I smiled slightly, remembering why Emery was the only family member who didn't get a letter. He'd built his business from scratch, never asking for handouts. Get some rest, Sierra ordered. The hard part's over, but as I lay there watching the sun set through my hospital window, I knew she was wrong. The hard part was just beginning for all of us. 2 weeks after my hospital release, Sierra drove me to the women's shelter where Christine was supposed to be volunteering. We sat in the car watching the entrance. She won't show, I said, checking my watch. $10 says you're wrong, Sierra replied, pointing at a familiar figure hurrying up the street. Christine looked different. No designer bag, no expensive jewelry. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore jeans and a plain sweater. She hesitated at the entrance, then squared her shoulders and went inside. Well, I'll be damned, I muttered. 1 down, 3 to go, Sierra said, starting the car. Where to next? The gambling addiction center was across town. We found Theo outside smoking a cigarette deep in conversation with an older man. As we watched, the man broke down crying. Theo awkwardly patted his shoulder, then pulled out his phone and appeared to be showing him something. That's Marcus, a voice said behind us. We turned to see the center's director. Your brother's been helping him set up a budgeting app. Seems Theo has quite a knack for connecting with our members. Takes one to know one, I suppose. My throat tightened. He's actually showing up regularly? 3 times a week like clockwork. Even started attending the sessions himself. The youth center was next. Through the window, we spotted Adeline sitting in a circle with teenage girls. Her face was bare of makeup, and she was gesturing animatedly as she spoke. One of the girls wiped away tears while nodding. What's she saying? I wondered aloud. A staff member passing by overheard me, sharing her story about social media addiction and body image issues. The girls really relate to her. She's organizing a real beauty workshop for next week. Adeline, my sister Adeline. The woman nodded. She's been a revelation, says she's finally finding purpose beyond her Instagram followers. Last stop was the Veterans Center. My stomach churned as we pulled into the parking lot. Dad's car was there, but so were several others I recognized from family gatherings. Inside, we found Dad in the recreation room playing chess with an elderly veteran. Uncle Rob was helping with physical therapy, and Aunt Jane was organizing care packages. Your father's been talking up the center to everyone he knows, the coordinator told me. He's recruited half his golf club as volunteers, says it reminds him of the camaraderie he felt in service. I don't understand, I said to Sierra as we left. They're actually doing it, all of them. Maybe they needed a push, she suggested, or maybe they needed purpose more than they needed money. That evening, my phone lit up with a message from Christine. Met a woman today. 3 kids escaping abuse. Reminded me of Mom before she met Dad. Never realized how lucky we were. Then Theo helped a guy today. He lost everything to betting, just like I almost did. Feels good to be on the other side. Adeline sent a selfie, her face natural surrounded by smiling teenage girls. They think I'm inspiring them, but it's the other way around. Dad's message was last and shortest. Your mother would be proud of all of us. I sat on my couch reading and rereading the messages. Sierra brought me a glass of wine. Having second thoughts about your revenge plan? She asked. It wasn't about revenge, I protested. Not really, no. She raised an eyebrow. Okay, maybe a little, I admitted, but I never expected this. My phone buzzed again. A message from Barrett. Emery and I dropped by the Veterans Center today. Your dad introduced us to everyone as my daughter's family. First time he's acknowledged me as anything but his lawyer. You know what the funny thing is? I said to Sierra. I thought I was teaching them a lesson about money, about not depending on me, but they're learning something else entirely. They're learning who they are without the safety net, Sierra nodded. Without the roles they've been playing their whole lives. The entitled sister, the gambling brother, the vain sister, the demanding father. I took a sip of wine. Maybe those were just masks they got stuck behind. And what about you? Sierra asked. What mask are you taking off? I thought about it. The savior, the ATM, the one who always has to fix everything. And how does it feel? I smiled, remembering Christine's message. Theo's determination. Adeline's bare face, Dad's simple words. It feels like freedom, I said. For all of us. Sierra raised her glass. To freedom then and to karma, which turns out to be a better teacher than any of us could have planned. We clinked glasses, and I felt the last knot of tension in my chest finally begin to unwind. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's giving people the chance to surprise themselves. The family meeting wasn't my idea. Christine called it 1 month into their volunteer work. This time, we met at my house. Neutral territory. They arrived together, and I barely recognized them. Christine's designer clothes had been replaced with practical wear. Theo's nervous energy had calmed, and Adeline's face showed actual laugh lines instead of Botox. We need to talk, Christine said as they settled into my living room, about what you did to us. I braced myself. Okay, talk. You manipulated us, Theo started. Used your money to force us into this. You're right, I admitted. I did. You had no right, Adeline added, but her voice lacked its usual bite. Maybe not, I agreed. But tell me honestly, would you have done any of this otherwise? Silence filled the room. I met a woman today, Christine said suddenly. She reminded me of me, constantly asking her sister for money, making excuses, playing victim. I watched her and felt ashamed. At least you didn't gamble away your kid's college fund, Theo muttered. Had to talk down a guy today who did exactly that. Kept thinking about all the times I promised to stop betting, all the times you bailed me out. My girls? Adeline said softly. She'd started calling the teenagers at the center her girls. They showed me their Instagram accounts today. All the filters, the editing. I saw myself in every single one of them. That desperate need to be perfect. Dad cleared his throat. The men at the center. Some of them lost everything. Family, homes, dignity. And here I was, treating my own daughter like a bank. I didn't do this to punish you, I said, feeling tears prick my eyes. I did it because we were all drowning. Me trying to save everyone. You expecting to be saved. You could have just talked to us, Christine protested. Would you have listened? I asked. Or would you have called me selfish again? Manipulated me with guilt until I gave in, like you always did? More silence. I hate what you did, Theo said finally. But I needed it. We all did. The funny thing is, Adeline added, I don't even care about the inheritance anymore. These kids, they need me. Really need me. Not my money. Not my connections. Just me. That's what Mom always tried to teach us, Dad said quietly. Service to others. Remember how she volunteered everywhere? We used to think she was wasting her time. She was the strong one, I said. I just copied her playbook. Christine stood up suddenly. I'm angry at you, Zara, for the manipulation, for the ultimatum, but I'm also grateful, and I don't know how to feel about that. Welcome to personal growth, I replied. It's messy. The shelter needs help renovating their children's playroom, Christine said after a moment. I was thinking maybe we could all pitch in as a family. My girls could paint a mural. Adeline offered. They're amazing artists. Some of the guys from the center are good with construction, Dad added. I could ask them to supervise. I can handle the budget, Theo said. Make sure we get the most value for our money. I sat back watching them plan, their excitement building. Sierra's words echoed in my mind. Maybe they needed purpose more than they needed money. One condition, I said, interrupting their planning. Whatever we do it together. No more divisions. No more keeping score. Does this mean you're speaking to us again? Adeline asked hopefully. I never stopped speaking to you, I corrected. I just stopped enabling you. There's a difference. Dad stood up walking to where I sat. His eyes were wet. I failed you as a father. Failed all of you, really, got so caught up in what we were entitled to, I forgot what we were capable of. We all failed each other, I said, standing to hug him. But we're fixing it now. One by one, they joined the hug until we were all tangled together, laughing and crying at the same time. So, Christine said as we finally broke apart, about that playroom renovation. I'll call Barrett, I offered. He can help with any permits we need. And Emery, Adeline added. He's good at organizing projects. As they left that evening, making plans and assigning tasks, I felt something shift in the air. The old dynamics of resentment and dependency were being replaced by something new, something healthier. My phone buzzed with a message from Sierra. How did it go? I typed back, they're still mad, but they're also grateful. And maybe that's exactly where we need to be right now. Because sometimes the best families are the ones that break apart and rebuild themselves stronger than before. The women's shelter playroom transformation was in full swing when I arrived that Saturday morning. Paint cans, drop cloths, and tools cluttered the space, but what caught my attention was my family actually working together. Adeline stood on a ladder directing her teenage artist as they sketched a forest scene across one wall. Their design incorporated inspiring words hidden among the trees: strength, hope,